Today's lesson, Tuesday the 5th of May 2020, is to understand equivalent fractions. So we're looking here today, boys and girls, at equivalent fractions and starting to look at those fractions that are the same but different. So first of all, we're going to have a look today at a nice easy fraction to start with, and we're going to have a look at 1/2. So 1/2. I know my whole is going to be divided into 2 equal parts, and then my numerator tells me that I've got one of those parts. Now, an equivalent fraction is when the whole is the same size, but the parts are different. The whole is the same, but the parts have been divided up into a different amount. So we'll have a look here at one that is equivalent. So one that is equivalent to 1/2 is if we had something out of 4. And you can see my bar here has been divided into 4 equal parts. Now, for that to be equivalent, for it to be the same size as this one above, you can see the same size, I would need 2 of those parts. If I just grab my ruler, you can then see that, oh yeah, that takes up the same amount of space, but the whole thing has been cut up into smaller pieces. Okay. If we have a look at a different one, again, using the same whole, and we'll have a look at now something that isn't equivalent. So if my whole there is chopped up into 3 equal pieces, you can see that actually, it isn't equivalent, because even if I shaded in that one, it still wouldn't be equivalent to those fractions above. It doesn't take up the same amount of space inside the whole. It doesn't matter that it's chopped up into smaller pieces, it's about looking at how much space does it take up in the whole. Does it take up the same amount of overall space in the whole thing that you've chopped up? And you'll notice that actually the pieces are smaller, but we've got more of them. But they take up the same amount of space as the whole thing. So this is an example question of how the equivalent fraction might look in your book. And you can see here I've got all my different bars, and they've been divided into the different amounts. So that one I can see, that one has been divided into 1 equal part. The whole here has been divided into 2 equal parts. The whole here has been divided into 3 equal parts. The whole here into 4 equal parts. The whole here is into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts. And the whole at the bottom has been divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equal parts. Now, I'm going to show you how I want you to lay this out in your book, not on a whiteboard. I'm not expecting people to draw this out every time. That is tricky to do. So we're looking here at 1/3. Okay, we can see it's been divided into 3 equal parts, and we've got 1 of those parts. Okay, so I'm looking at 1/3. That's the one I'm looking at, and I'm looking at what other fractions are equivalent to that. Which other fractions take up the same amount of the bar? They can be divided differently, but they take up the same amount. In my book, all I'd like you to do today, guys, is just write down 1/3 equals. And what it equals, what is the other fraction that takes up the same amount of space? It is the same, but it's slightly different. So if we have a look, there's 1/3. I'm going to look up first of all. 1/3 takes up the same space. It's not going to be 1/2, because that goes all the way over to here. And it's not going to be 1/2. If I go down and just use my ruler to line it up, I'm going down here. It's not going to be 1/4. That doesn't line up. Oh, but there we do have a line there when we get to 2 6. If I just draw that in for you there, you can see 1/3 does line up with something in the sixths. So something, when it's divided into 6, takes up the same amount of space as 1/3. Now if I just have a look, how many of those pieces do I have? I have 1, 2 pieces. So 2 sixths takes up the same as 1/3. If we just keep going further down, we'll carry on my little line down so you can see on the screen. There, that doesn't take up the same amount of space in the eighths. So all I've got here is 1/3. The equivalent fraction of that would be 2 sixths. And you can see it really clearly here. When you look at the questions, you're going to have the image like this to look at. Sometimes you'll be given the bar shaded in. Sometimes you'll be given other bars so you can just spot which ones are the same. Sometimes I'll have given you the fraction and you can see, oh, which fraction is it and which one matches up. But use the lines. They've been drawn out very accurately to make sure that you can use the lines to see what takes up the same amount of space. Okay, so going through the apply it here, you've got 2 bars. We've got one on the top, we've got one on the bottom. And what I'm asking you is, can you explain why these do not show equivalent fractions? Have a go on the next slide. Right, let's have a look at the answer to this. So our top fraction here, the pink one, we can see the whole bar has been divided into 2 equal parts, and we have one of those shaded in. So we have one of those parts shaded in, the pink one. Okay. The bottom fraction here, the whole has been divided into 3 equal parts, and we have 2 of those equal parts. So that 2 stands for that. Now you can see that it doesn't take up the same amount of space in a bar. 2/3, the bottom one, the yellow one, 2/3 takes up more space in the bar than 1/2. 1/2 takes up to there, whereas 2/3 goes all the way up to there. So they're not equal because they don't take the same amount of space of the bar. They're not the same distance. They're not the same length. They're not the same amount. So I've just got an envelope here, boys and girls, a piece of paper. We'll define anything that you can fold to get some fractions is what we're going to look at. So we're going to have a look at this one. We're going to see what equivalent fractions we can make. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to look at this whole piece of paper, and first of all, we're going to fold it into 4 equal parts. Now, really simply to do this, you might need to just take your time at home. Okay, I'm going to try and fold it so it's into 4 equal parts. Hopefully they're equal. Might take a bit of time just to figure it out. So you can see there. Oh, there we go. There's my 4 equal parts. It's really important that we have it with them like this, and you'll see why. And then I'm going to have one of those equal parts. So I'm just going to grab my pen quickly, and I'm having one of those parts. It doesn't matter which part, so I'm going to have this one here. I'm going to have that equal part there. You can see there, I've got one equal part. Then what we're going to do, we're going to look at this whole piece of paper, and we're going to see, is there another way we can split it into equal parts that gives us the same amount of space taken up, the same amount shaded on the piece of paper, but gives us a different fraction. So we're going to turn it the other way, and then we're going to fold it in half the other way. So I'm going to fold it over, make a crease down there. You might need some help from people at home. And then if we have a look at it, oh, I've got a different fraction here. How many parts have I got now? How many has it been chopped up into now? So if I have a look at this nice and quickly, I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. So now my whole piece of paper is now out of 8. It's out of 8. You can see that there. I'll just slide it over a little bit. It's out of 8. And I've got 1, 2 of those parts. So I now know that 1/4, 1/4, is equivalent. It takes up the same amount of room, the same amount of space as 2/8 take up. And you can see I didn't do any more colouring. I did it exactly the same. Now you've got a couple of fractions to have a look at. They're not 1/4. They are other fractions. Take your time folding it carefully so you get it equal. Maybe get some parents to help you if you need to. Older brothers or sisters. Then fold it the other way and see what equivalent fraction do you get when you do that. Right, so going through the solve it here, rather than the pieces of paper, I've just drawn it out so I can show you a bit quicker. So I'd have... Okay, on the solve it here, we're trying to show that link between 4/6